where we strip away the noise and tune into what truly matters. Today's guest, Marco Petrovic, is no ordinary seeker. He's a spiritual voyager, best selling author, and the soulful force behind the Mara project, which leads transformational journeys to Earth's most sacred places. Tonight, we are diving into the art of reclaiming inner calm, exploring practical yet mystical strategies to anchor ourselves in today's turbulent world. Get ready to be grounded and elevated. Welcome to the show, Marco. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So, Marco, you have explored ancient cultures around the world. What do these traditions teach us about cultivating inner calm that modern life often forgets?
I'd say a lot of the basics where we overlook that which is free and free medicine, and we look for the shiny object to help us solve our problems, such as the whole industry of biohacking, for example. There's many beautiful things that have come out of this industry to help us enhance the human experience. But the majority of people that go down the path of exploring biohacking and spending a lot of money on supplements and vitamins and minerals might be the same people that don't put their bare feet on the earth even once a week. And so I'd say that if there's anything from these ancient cultures that we can learn, it's to remember some of the critical basics of how to connect with life, to understand that the water has life and that the water has memory, and that if we know how to put intention into the water, that we can change our lives in a moment, to understand that the earth is a living, breathing entity that we can communicate with, the wind likewise. And then also one of the most important ones for me in my journey has been understanding my relationship to the fire. Each one of these elements that I'm speaking about can give us a sense of clarity, a feeling like we've been washed over of certain stresses and energies that keep us from being calm. But the fire is one that purifies it in a way that's really unique, and I feel like it's the one that's missing the most in modern day society. And when I speak about the fire, yes, we can light a candle and meditate with a fire, or do an inner meditation focusing on a flame. But there is something profoundly beautiful about going out into nature and spending a whole night by the fire, focused in an intentional way, and giving ourselves an opportunity to get to know life like that.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So, was there a moment during your travels that profoundly shifted your own understanding of peace?
There was. I'd say it was the time when I spent 9 months without saying a word. I spent 9 months going to different cultures and experiencing their ceremonies, and I did all of it in noble silence. And during those 9 months, many things happened. You know, when we make an intention to be silent, all of a sudden the world gets very loud, and we get tested in many different ways to break the silence. It's like with anything, whenever we set an intention, we want to go one way, and then life will test our resolve to see how important that way is for us. And so during my silence, I'd say one of the profound moments was, I mean, there was a string of many, but they all carried a similar theme that I could summarize into one profound moment, which was deepening my compassion for humanity, because I only really experienced a lack of inner peace around humans. I can be around nature, I can be around animals, I can be in any kind of solitary experience, which I think is funny to call it solitary because we're never truly alone. If we have plants around us, if we have a rock around us, trees, then we're not by ourselves. We're with some of the oldest forms of life that exist. But around humans is where I noticed that my inner peace would slip during the silence. And during those 9 months, it was a continued practice of deepening my compassion and understanding for humanity and the many shades of color that we express as humans that um, give us the experiences that we need, you know. And so what changed for me profoundly was understanding that it's that beautiful saying that says, it's the light of the sun that uh, fertilizes life on this earth and gives life to everything that we see and to all this beauty. And even after all this time, the sun never turns around to the earth and says that you owe me. And it was that kind of radiating love that I only got to know through increased layers of compassion.
It's beautiful how you bridge the timeless with the timely, reminding us that wisdom isn't lost, just buried under beneath the noise. So your Mara project leads soul journeys to sacred places. How do environment shape our internal state? And can we recreate that sanctuary energy in our everyday lives?
Yeah, we can recreate the energy of a sanctuary within our everyday lives to a degree. However, I'd say it's very challenging to uh, consistently maintain the energy that we experience at a sacred site. And when I speak about sacred sites, I speak about the temples, the pyramids. I speak about the ancient temples, which some of them people believe to be mountains, but they're not actually mountains. I just spent some time over the last 2 weeks going through some sacred sites in Serbia that have connection to Vedic traditions, interestingly enough, all the way over here in Europe. And what I encountered was that these are a form of technology that breathe a very pristine energy. That the purpose of visiting these places is to get to know that energy within ourselves, of course. And I feel like when we visit these sacred sites, we get to take a piece of them home with us. They leave a indelible mark in our soul, in our heart, in our temple, our body, so that we can take it home with us. And so I feel like a part of life's journey is this lifelong pilgrimage that we can all take on of visiting sites that can positively influence us so that as time goes on, we can create more and more of a temple within our homes. And when I speak about our homes, I speak about the home in which we live every single moment being our body, our temple.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So, what's one ritual or practice that helps you instantly reconnect to the calm?
Well, I have a daily practice that I like to stick to of a 20-minute meditation. And I found that's been the most valuable, simple practice that I can maintain that helps me navigate and flow through the stresses that life can bring about. And there's a noticeable difference if I don't do that meditation for a day. And there's a noticeable difference to the way that my life flows when I do maintain that practice. So there's more simple things, like just looking up to the sky and taking a simple breath. Uh, But as far as practices that I found that consistently apply across my life in a way that I don't have to think about them once I'm done with them, I'd say it's the 20-minute meditation.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Bringing the sacred into the mundane. It's a reminder that calm isn't found, it's cultivated.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you mentioned about the mundane is something I'd like to highlight. It's that we can find a significant depth in shallow waters. And so that theme of the mundane, I mean, a 20-minute meditation is very easy to do. It's also very easy not to do. And the difference in the quality of life that we experience is such a profound shift. And we can access some of the greatest depths to life by committing ourselves to a simple practice like that. And to just speak to it a little bit more, I said that 20 minutes is easy to do. I'll also say that there was a time when it wasn't easy for me to do. So I made a minimum commitment of just 5 minutes. I said I can sit and meditate for 5 minutes. I don't know about 20. But then as time went on, I built up my capacity and my appreciation for meditation. So the 20 minutes was something that was easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, you have written deeply about elemental connection in your books. How can tuning into nature's elements help us restore emotional balance?
I feel like emotional balance is our birthright, and that we forget that because we're out of touch with the elements. And what I mean by that is you don't see animals harboring emotion. When they have an emotion, they express it and they move on with life. They're very fluid. And I've experienced similar things in indigenous cultures where if they're angry, they'll be angry for the moment that they need to, and it can be like a volcano erupting. But as soon as they're done, they move on to laughter. And if you're not watching very closely, you might miss the whole arc of expression. And I spoke about this in my book because to me it was fascinating to see humans that were so fluid with their expression. And they won't think about the anger once they're done. So they'll say what they need to say, they express themselves, and they move on with life. And I feel like that kind of fluidity is something that generally lacks in modern day society. And by spending time with the elements, we learn how to move through life with more grace. We learn how to be more like water, more fluid. And so water can crash when it needs to crash, and it can flow when it needs to flow, and it can cascade when it needs to cascade. And it's available to us. And it's a beautiful way to aspire to express oneself. And I believe it's one of the greatest forms of art that a human can be in touch with, to express themselves honestly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, which element do you personally lean on the most when things feel off?
I don't really have one that I favor. I'll like the air is the one that comes to mind right now, just because that's my breath. It's available to me. It's right under my nose all the time. And then if I can put my feet on the earth, I will. If I can pour myself a glass of water and take a few moments to connect to it and set an intention and pray, I will. And probably the fire is to engage with the fire in the way that I mentioned, probably takes the most work. But the beautiful thing is that nature has a beautiful karmic reward, that the amount of effort that we put into something is to the degree to which we will receive something. And so, as the old saying goes, chop wood, carry water. Putting aside the time to cut some wood and prepare some firewood for a beautiful fire and spend a night like that carries a reward with it that only one will know once they've been through it. It's nothing that I can explain in words that will do justice, but it's one of the most rewarding experiences.
That imagery is so vivid and relatable. We all have a home element that steadies us. So, in a hyper-stimulated world, what are the biggest myths around calm and stillness you'd love to debunk?
I'd say the idea that we need to look for calm, to be calm, is part of our birthright. It's not something that we need to search for. It's not something that we need to invest in dramatically. And it's a lot closer to us than we believe. And no matter how far or new along the journey of calm we are, it's right around the corner. Because for me to take my next step, having been cultivating myself um, in a conscious way for over 15 years now, doesn't give me any advantage to the person who's taking their first conscious breath in their life after living a modern day life for 35 years and never having thought about mindfulness or consciousness or anything like that. It's the same corner. It's the same step that we have to take. In the moment that we take that step, life begins to change. So I'd say the big myth is that we get sold a mountain of things that we're told that we need, when in fact we don't need any of them. It's free and it's available to us right now. All we have to do is take the next step, and the next step for a lot of people, it can be a scary thing, because it can be scary to change. It can be scary to transform oneself. It can be scary to look at ourselves honestly in the mirror and say, you know what, Marco, it's time to change, and to
Yeah.
take that step, not just have the conversation, but to take.
Mm-hmm, definitely. So, do you think stillness is feared in modern culture? Why are we so resistant to slowing down?
I'd say because we're engineered to have our attention pulled in 1,000 directions throughout a day, which was not done up until this generation, or maybe the previous. So smartphones are a perfect example. How many notifications does each person get on their phone every single day? I know for me, I have the majority of my notifications turned off, just a few essential applications, and I'll still get 50 to 100 notifications a day. That's 50 to 100 notifications, impulses that pulls our attention in a direction that previously never existed. Facebook, Instagram, social media, uh, banking applications, all these things, they didn't exist 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And so I'd say that we're living in a time that it is speeding up, in the sense that uh, the way that the life used to be is a lot shorter. And it doesn't mean that we need to engage with it. So I want to be a voice for people crafting what I call their own soul path, people crafting their own joy and their own image of happiness in a way that feels truly inspiring to them. For me, what that looked like when I found myself trapped in this very fast world of uh, chasing money, paying off mortgages, chasing a dream that I was sold by modern day society, was I sold everything that I owned, and I packed my life down into nothing more than a suitcase and a guitar, and I booked a one-way ticket to Mexico, not knowing the language, not knowing anyone over there except for one friend, and it was the best decision I've made in my life, because it gave me an opportunity to live a completely new life. And that's the life that I speak about in the book Soul Path that I wrote, my recently best-selling book, because giving myself that opportunity allowed me to encounter life in a way that I never would have if I stayed in the same cycle of how I was living. And my dream for everyone is that they'll find their own soul path. I just called it that. You can call it the aligned path, the divine path, uh, the most joyful path, whatever it is, the universal plan. But there is one for each and every one of us. And what I have found that when I have the faith and the courage to pursue that life, it's like I am living and watching the best movie that's ever existed at the same time. And that's like the movie script of my life that was written by the cosmos, the universe, and in some way that my soul agreed upon it to come to this beautiful earth and live it. And I wish each and every person to give themselves the opportunity to get to know that, because it's a very beautiful human experience that we all have access to.
That hits deep. Stillness often gets mistaken for stagnation. But as you have shown, it's actually where transformation begins. So, for someone feeling disconnected or overwhelmed right now, what's one soul grounding step they can take today?
For someone feeling overwhelmed, I would say to realize that whatever you're experiencing, on some level, your soul chose to experience it. And the experience that you're in right now is just an expression of it. So, what I mean by that is, one of my teachers once shared some beautiful words with me, and I spoke about this in my book Soul Path as well, where he mentioned that um, I was very stressed out at the time, and I was seeking some answers, and he said to me, whether you were a Buddhist monk in the temples who meditated for the majority of his days, and you were just looking at how to cut the next branch of your bonsai tree and how to groom it, or whether you were a CEO and an entrepreneur at the top of a multinational organization, you would be experiencing the exact same thing. The only difference is that the reality around you would be different. And so what I got from that was it was a very humbling teaching that said it doesn't matter what the reality around me is. It's easy for us to get caught up in comparing to other people's lives and saying, like it must be easier for them because of this or that. But the truth is, we don't know what's happening in their internal world. And all of us have our own challenges that we have to go through. And one's challenge is no greater or lesser than the others. It's their own challenge. And so that allowed me to level the playing field and to realize everyone's got their own turbulence that they have to learn how to overcome. And overcoming it is simpler than we make it out to be. So no matter how complicated we make the problem, the solution remains embarrassingly simple. And the solution is always in what I was saying before about taking the next step. Most people say, I don't know what to do. I don't know what the next step is. The truth is we do, but we convince ourselves that we don't because it's easier to stay naive than it is to be courageous, transform ourselves, and take a step that might invite judgment from friends, from family, from ourselves in a way that we've never known it before. And whatever the next step is, I say be valiant. Forget that this word fear that people speak about, because we're all going to end up dead at some point, and all that stuff's not going to matter. But what does matter is the richness of each moment that we give ourselves in this life. And that comes through being valiant and pursuing our dreams. So those little whispers, those little intuitions that we have about things that we can do, when we get them, to take them up with both hands straight away and act on them. So what that looks like for me is if I have an inspiration to gather a group of people around a fire, then I start inviting people straight away. I set a date. I let them know that it's happening. I don't think about it. I let the details come together, but I put the creation in process. I give it energy. I give it life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how do we keep returning to that practice, even when life tries to pull us away?
A few simple breaths for starters, and asking for what we need. And when I say asking for what we need, that's not from people around us. It can be, but it's oftentimes asking the request within ourselves and of life itself, of the universe. Sometimes I hear people and they say, "Oh no, like I'm good, like my life is okay. I don't need to ask for anything." And an elder shared with me beautifully. He said, "Even if you're good, still ask to be better, because then you'll be even better. And the better we are as humans, then the better the choices that we make." So some people save prayer and devotion for times of disaster, of chaos. And what I mean by that is like they might start praying when they get really sick, or when someone that they love gets really sick, or really unwell, or when their whole life starts to fall apart. But actually, like the opportunity around it is to not just do it at times of disaster, but to do it at times of grace as well, when things are good. If nothing else, to give thanks and to ask for one's path to keep becoming clearer. And if we do get kind of pulled off track a little bit, we get pulled off track to the degree that we continue walking in that way. So if I notice that I've taken a few steps that are misaligned, then I'll give myself a moment's breath and I'll ask myself, where's the alignment? Where does my heart come to life? Where does life ripple through me? And I can lean into it energetically with my intention. And through leaning into it, I can know, okay, that's where I go. That's the place that gives me butterflies in my stomach. That's where I'm going.
Absolutely. And what a journey inward. Marco Petrovic shows us that inner calm isn't about escaping reality, it's about expanding our capacity to be with it, fully and fiercely. Whether you're surrounded by chaos or craving stillness, remember this: peace is not a place, it's a practice. So let's keep returning to that inner compass again and again.